Kia ora talo namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cage. This is our big old podcast coming at you on a Tuesday, here to chat through a bunch of Aotearoa sporting matters as we always do. And if we're talking Aotearoa sporting matters, we've got to talk the battle of the Kiwi football captains. Surman versus Michael Boxall, two captains leading their teams in the country known as America. We saw the toss. Did they do a toss in football?
Yeah, a little coin toss, see who's going to kick off, who's going to play which way, you know. Then shake of hands of the referee.
Who won the toss?
With the random guy from the Minnesota Vikings who was hanging around as like a VIP who... Jalen Naylor, I think his name is. I looked up his stats to see, like, is this... First of all, I looked up, was like, why didn't they get Kirk Cousins? And then I checked and saw that Kirk Cousins doesn't play for the Vikings anymore, and they made the playoffs last year without him. So I haven't been paying attention to Minnesota Vikings stuff, so I thought, well, maybe this Naylor guy's the man. He is like 1,000 yards last season and 20 touchdown passes or something. He was a wide receiver who caught 28 passes for 400 and something yards. So he's one of their guys. He's got quite a few touchdown passes last season, but it's sort of like, this wasn't Roger Tuivasa-Sheck going out there to do the thing. This was a little bit more like getting Alilea Tawa or someone like that,
Well, it is
nice
better.
up-and-coming player, but not your superstar. For such a auspicious occasion as well, with two New Zealand captains together. I thought they might have got the big dogs, but fair enough.
It is a whole lot better than the... I think it's the Las Vegas Raiders player who was there he blew the horn for the Raiders versus the Warriors in Las Vegas, and he was like a practice squad member. So at least this dude actually plays for the Minnesota Vikings. But who won the toss?
I don't know. Well, they don't really. Yeah,
it's the most important detail.
Pay enough attention to that.
We got two Kiwis doing a coin toss. Shit.
Well, I can look and see if you can tell the thing. That's not the kind of information they tell you.
Well, who won the football game? How about that one?
Neither of them.
Oh, that's good.
That's probably the slightly more important detail, but yeah, neither of them actually won. I'm just checking the toss there. It looks like Boxall won the toss. The ref points at him after they do the little coin flip, so I think that's how that went. Didn't really make that much of a difference. Portland had most of the ball and didn't really create a lot with it, and Minnesota had less of the ball and defended quite well without it. I would have taken a 0 draw, clean sheet for each of the two Kiwi centre-backs. As it happened, Portland scored with about 10 minutes to go and then immediately made a couple defensive subs to change the state of the game, which was a bit dumb from them because they'd invited Minnesota forward, who then scored with 5 minutes to go, and 1-1 was the final score, which is a point that puts Minnesota United with Michael Boxall into the playoffs. They're with like 5 or 6 games still remaining. They can't be caught. They're currently sitting second in the Western Conference, so they're guaranteed a playoff spot for the 4th time in the last 5 years. So they've been pretty good while Michael Boxall's been there. And Surman's team, Portland Timbers, they're sitting back in 6th. But this was the second game in a row where they've got an away draw against a team up near the top of the rankings. So obviously those two games as well coincide with Surman being the captain for the only 2 occasions that he's done so in his career. So, I mean, good. Everyone got a little something out of that game, with the two Kiwi captains. Old mate from the Minnesota Vikings got to enjoy that. It got to be a little part of history, even though he probably doesn't realize it. And each team got something valuable out of the game. So that's nice. Everyone progresses forward, and hopefully they'll both be making playoff runs later on. And we'll see if Surman keeps his captaincy, because that's a normal thing from Michael Boxall. He's been captaining Minnesota all season. He's like the 37-year-old veteran, played more games for Minnesota than anyone else in history. He's played over 250 times in the MLS. Surman, though, is 21 years old in his first MLS season. So the fact he was captaining at any point is a bit crazy, but then also he had a really good performance, like probably his best for at least a month last week when they first gave him the captaincy. So it makes sense that you'd stick around with that formula. It seemed to work, so give him another go, and we'll see if that holds. Like they will be interesting to see. He's going to be starting for them either way because he's proved himself a very important player for them this season. But see if the captaincy bit holds because that seems to be bringing out the best in him as well.
We know Michael Boxall is beloved in Minnesota. Minnesota football community loves their Kiwi Michael Boxall.
Voted him into the All-Star game this year.
There we go. And long-term captain of the team. But I'm more curious, like, do you have any sort of ranking of the younger dudes and how much their new football communities love them? Because we've got Marco Stamenic doing, he's catching the vibes at Swansea, Elijah Just at Motherwell. We have Kakache, our Wrexham, Finn Surman with Portland. And I don't have any fresh Tyler Bindon stuff on my mind, but I'm sure wherever Tyler Bindon is, his fans love him as well. Am I missing anyone for young Kiwi footballers who are cultivating cult hero status in their respective football communities? Max Mata won't be part of that though, because he is now leaving Motherwell by mutual consent, obviously, to come back to Aotearoa and play for Auckland FC.
Or the Wellington Phoenix, who might have a little bit more of a need for him at the moment. You know, he was a Wellington Phoenix youngster.
I would prefer that.
His brother still plays in Wellington for Wellington Olympic. You know, that could happen. I think his fiance might play in Wellington as well, actually. I'm not sure. She's a netballer, and I don't follow netball at all, but there might be something in that. I'm not sure. Or he could go to Ireland, where he's going to be beloved. He was beloved before when he was playing in Ireland, so that's probably the place where he got the most kind of recognition. But yeah, Shrewsbury Town, he turned up. They for pre-season, they said, you get a clean slate. We've just been relegated. We've got a different coach than the one that iced you out last time and loaned you away. Clean slate. Let's see what you can do. And he looked all right in pre-season. He scored a goal in one of their games, and then he did the thing that he did a few too many times for Auckland FC last year and got injured. So he's out for like 2 months, and Shrewsbury have not won. Even though they've just been relegated from League One to League Two, they're now second to last in League Two because they haven't won any of their first 6 games. So they needed a striker who can help them like right here, right now. They signed one on deadline day, and as they sign one, another one, you know, falls off the back of the wagon. So they released Max Mata, who's not even going to be fit again for another month or so. So it is what it is. Fair enough. Take some time away and get fit again, and then see where he's at probably in January, unless, you know, A-League season does line up maybe with when he should be fit again. So there is a possibility there. The Irish season doesn't. The Irish season will be finished in 2 months, so he could go back there, play like 3 games, and then be done for another 3 months. Probably not the ideal thing when you've just been out, but we'll see.
I do want him to go to the Phoenix, because then we get an extension of the Phoenix Auckland FC rivalry, which now includes the old Oceania Cup situation, players back and forth. Obviously, the Gillian whānau is split between the two clubs. So much funk, good and bad, between those two organizations. So it would be another chapter in the rivalry between Wellington Phoenix and Auckland FC if Max Mata does go to Wellington Phoenix, misses a few games, few months with injuries, coming back, and then he just starts to bang in goals, gets a derby goal against his former team, helps Wellington Phoenix get into the finals. They perform better this season than Auckland FC. Holy guacamole, Max Mata, please just go to the Phoenix.
I mean, Ollie Sale's gone in the other direction as well to add to that recently. And if that did happen, hypothetically, we're dreaming up a scenario here, but it does seem like something that is feasible. He would be the first player to go the other direction, right? Because we haven't had a chance for anyone to go from Auckland FC to the Phoenix. Had a couple ex-Phoenix players playing for Auckland FC, but nothing the other way around yet. So someone's got to do that at some point. And I do think the Phoenix have, like, they could use a number 9 target man type hold-up guy. You know, they signed Ifeanyi Eze to be their new import forward, but they've mostly been playing him on the wing. They've not been playing him as a number 9. So the role that Costa Barbarouses departed, left behind him, that's through the Aussie Cup stuff anyway. That's been played by Hideki Ishige, who I mean, they're like, we'll see what it looks like when they've actually had a full preseason and been able to build into that. But if that's the plan going forward, I'm not sure that he's a natural for that position either. I don't know. So, yeah, there could be some value in that idea. Let's talk it into existence and see what happens.
Beloved young Kiwi footballers.
But to players who are beloved where they are, yes. Kakache in 2 games has played. Oh, hold on, let me get the stat from the newsletter yesterday. He played their first game, and then you remember they subbed him off, and then conceded 2 goals when they were 1-0 up, when they subbed him off with like 5 minutes to go, conceded twice and lost. He came back from injury on the weekend, played about 75 minutes. They won 2-0 against Millwall, actually. And good news there is that Millwall's goalkeeper had a shambles for the first goal, where he comes out to claim a cross and doesn't get near it, and then they score from it. That's good because Max Crocombe is the backup keeper at Millwall, waiting for a chance, and their starter had a really good like man of the match performance in the previous league game, having looked shaky in the first 2. But now he's had another shaky one, cost them another goal. So 3 out of his 4 games haven't been very good. So surely Max Crocombe after the international break, let's get him a crack in the league game. But Wrexham have conceded 0 goals in 162 minutes with Libby Kakache on the field, including the EFL Cup games that he didn't play as well. They've conceded 12 goals in 378 minutes without Kakache on the field. So none in 162 versus 12 in 378. So a little over double, but 12 more goals than 0. It's not only that he's also, I think he's already, even in just 2 appearances, he's getting a little bit of fan favorite status there just because of the way he plays, which we all like. We all know and love already. There's something to be said there about they just seem like they're a better team when he's on the park as well. So that's good stuff there. The same is true of Marko Stamanic, who took like 3 seconds to become a fan favorite with Swansea when he just went and chopped down Nestori Irankunda, who's an Australian winger he'll be up against in the next couple of days when the All Whites play against the Socceroos. So good start from him. I think he's played 3 times for Swansea, and yeah, the fans seem to love him after every one of them. I'll tell you, a sneaky one there is Matt Garbutt. I think seems to be impressing the Peterborough fans pretty quickly. Like there's been some good reaction there to his performances, even though that team kind of sucks and probably needs more than just Matt Garbutt to turn that around. Elijah Just, yes, definitely. He's settled in fantastically. He's already kind of adored for Motherwell, who don't seem to be able to win games. They've drawn 4 in a row to start the season, but they've been playing like really nice, flowing, fluid football, lots of passing and dribbling and moving the ball around. And Elijah Just is a big part of that, and he's getting plenty of recognition for it. He's already made 1 Scottish Premiership Team of the Week selection, and sure, plenty more to come. He's got 3 assists in 4 games so far. That's all excellent stuff. Like there just seems to be Finn Surman obviously as well. He's had longer, that he's 3/4 of the way through his season, but he's been excellent. Sort of came in with I won't say no expectations, but I certainly don't think that anyone in Portland was expecting him to become the player that he is so quickly. And then people from our perspective who are aware of what he's capable of maybe weren't expecting him to get the opportunities that he's had so quickly either. So it's just this steady trend of all these Kiwi footballers like 25 years and younger who are joining these clubs and immediately looking awesome. We can find exceptions to the rule, but the fact that there's like, what did I list there, like 5 or 6 guys who have just turned up with an instant impact at their new clubs, and that's some crazy stuff. Used to watch, I'm just used to following these Kiwi footballers who turn up having to prove themselves from the outside in kind of thing, which I guess you could say Max Crocombe's doing that a little bit at the moment. Ben Wane's doing that a little bit at the moment. But like Michael Stamanic isn't, Finn Surman isn't, Eli Just isn't, even someone I don't think it's quite the fan recognition yet for Sarpreet Singh, but him linking up with Dario Kalajic has gotten him starting a lot of games. He was actually on the bench for the first time on this past weekend, but he came off the bench at half time and then set up a goal. So pretty nice impact from him there. I think he's having certainly a bigger role than he's been used to at even in like lower down club situations. So these are some pretty glorious times for these Flying Kiwis fellas, and I'm sure will also be the same for a lot of the women's players too, where their seasons are a couple of weeks behind. So the English stuff there hasn't started yet. Otherwise, we'd probably be saying the same about a lot of them as well.
Big time Matt Garbutt from Good at Speaking English fame. Just a quick little look around the Peterborough fandom and the posh people. One of the hosts of the Poshcast, he tweeted, "Matt Garbutt won't be here for long. Miles too good for us." And then the Poshcast, they say Matthew Garbutt looks great. And there's another one, "Standing out like a sore thumb. Our New Zealand international looks the business. Man of the match, Matthew Garbutt." So shout out to big time Matthew Garbutt for settling down with a team finally, which was good to see after being in the abyss, being lost in the Tom Bombadil forest. Shout out to
how's your Polish language as well? Because I haven't got around to checking up on how Alex Paulsen did in his debut for Lechia Gdansk on the weekend. They lost 2-0. He made a couple of saves. I'll check the highlights and round that up for Flying Kiwis, but I'll be interested to find out. I don't know if I'll be capable of it, because even when you get the Google Translates, I tend to feel like a lot gets lost in translation on those things. But hopefully Alex Paulsen we can say the same thing about, because one thing about going to play for like a historically renowned but currently underperforming team in the Polish, I think it's called the Elkstrasse, their top division, is that the fan bases are ruthless there. Like the tifos go wild in Poland, so like and in a lot of those Eastern European countries. So like if you settle in nicely and impress from the start, you will be beloved pretty quickly. If you don't, it might not be a fun environment to be around. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure Alex Paulsen will be great for them, because he's been great everywhere else he's gone. We've got no evidence to say anything other than that. So, good luck to him. But he is, well, we'll talk about the All Whites a bit later, I think, because he is one of the ones who's had to pull out in order to prioritize settling into Poland, which you'd imagine that takes a bit of work. It is a non-English speaking country after all. You know, he's signed with an English club, but then you end up playing in Poland at the last minute, late in the transfer window as well. So, yeah, he's settling in.
We also have the Caribbean Premier League. Now, we don't talk a lot about the T20 leagues around the world, because who cares? Super Smash is the greatest T20 league in the world, and New Zealand is the greatest cricketing nation in the world, so none of the other shit really matters. But I do have this little nugget, which actually it was slightly diminished overnight, because Colin Munro and Tim Seifert were the two leading run scorers in the Caribbean Premier League last night. Now Seifert has dropped down to third. But they are the only two batters in the CPL with a century. So that's good stuff there, and it'll be really exciting to see Colin Munro return to the Black Caps T20 team for the T20 World Cup, maybe an opening partnership with Tim Seifert, lefty, righty, and they can keep building forward, and maybe even Trent Bolt comes back and we get the old-timers playing T20 cricket for Aotearoa. Obviously taking the piss there, but it'll be, I do have Tim Seifert's form as one of my key ideas for the Black Caps T20 team, because he will play as the leading wicketkeeper, I believe. And with Finn Allen out injured, I think Tim Seifert is just going to be the hyper-aggressive top-order batter, probably playing alongside Devon Conway. And that opening group, to me, Tim Seifert, Devon Conway, Finn Allen, but then you can also have Rachin Ravindra involved as an opener as well. So shout out to Tim Seifert, 277 runs, averaging 69, strike rate of 179. So he's doing all right in the old CPL. Do you have any quick theories about the Warriors losing at Mount Smart Stadium? So they've got a bad home record, but the whole Warriors organization has a pretty good away record, because not only are the Warriors NRL team quite good in Australia, they're 8-3, but the New South Wales Cup team, they have a fantastic record in Australia this season, as well as the minor premiers, I believe, of the New South Wales Cup. I think so this season, the New South Wales Cup team is 10-1 in Australia. The under-21 Jersey Flag team are 5-5, which is better than their home record. But also, the under-17 Harold Matthews Cup team, they won back-to-back championships, playing all 6 of their finals in Australia. So 3 finals in each of those seasons were in Australia. 3 finals in 2 seasons, 6 finals games, and the Warriors Harold Matthews Cup team won all of them in Australia. So if we go the Warriors in the NRL, they're 8-3 in Australia this year. If we go to New South Wales Cup, they're 10-1 in Australia, or away this year. Then we drop down to under 17 Harold Matthews Cup. They have won back-to-back championships by going 6-0 in Australia. So that's the positive side. The stinky side is that the Warriors, they just seem to stumble at Mount Smart Stadium. They have now lost their 4 biggest, the 4 games with the biggest home crowds this season at Mount Smart Stadium. And of course, if we add in Auckland FC and their 2 biggest crowds this year, then I think we're at like 5 of the 6 biggest crowds at Mount Smart Stadium are all losses this year. So it's very strange. It's very goofy. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But somehow playing at Mount Smart Stadium just brings out the worst of the Warriors. Whereas just like everything's just a bit off. They're dropping the ball. They're not playing their best footy. Everything's tame, everything's mundane. And if we'll get into the preview for the Sea Eagles game, because that's where I want to focus my energies. I'm not even thinking about finals footy anymore. I've been meditating, I've been chilling, and I've been grounding myself just to stay present in the moment and focus on this week's game against the Sea Eagles. But the Warriors had no dummy half runs from their 2 hookers against the Eels, for example. 0. Wade Egan had 0 runs. Tomato Martin had 0 runs. Like, this is the type of shit that when you step into the Temple of Mount Smart, it's like the House of the Undying in A Song of Ice and Fire. It's like one of those mirror rooms where you just step into a room full of mirrors and you're just like confused and you're just a bit baffled and you're just like, oh, what's going on? Or you enter one of those mazes and you're just walking around in circles because everything looks the same. Or you're kayaking through the estuaries and there's mangroves and you're taking all these different turns and you realize that you've just been paddling in the wrong direction the whole time. When the Warriors are playing in front of big crowds at Mount Smart Stadium, it's like they just step into this goofy world where everything just gets a bit ugh.
Yeah, I don't have any good theories as to why it might be. I might have a few bad theories as to why it might be. I mean, there is maybe something to say certainly about the NRL teams. Their style of play perhaps is a little bit better suited to like the grind kind of works when there's no pressure on you. You don't have the crowd expecting you to go and create stuff and take it over the top and whatever. Like that works really nicely in the away environment where you can sort of feed off, like if you just withstand the opponent and they start to feel the pressure, you can then feed off their doubt and the errors that they will make, etc., etc. Except that I don't even know if that really applies because the Warriors don't really have away crowd. So when they play away, there's still so much noise from, fans living in Australia who turn up to support those games or traveling fans or whatever. So I don't know why that would be, especially when you then have this, it seems to be like a trend across multiple teams through the club. So then you start to be like, well, how could there be a through line when there's so many different like environments that all seem to have the same issue? But
well, it's not the issue. The theme isn't an issue. The theme is the Warriors are really good in Australia. That's the theme through the teams.
I guess it's not so much that those teams, like the New South Wales team, isn't losing at very many games full stop. So it's not about them losing at home, I guess. That's more, that is the good side of it, because there does seem to be something where they are, across the club, really excellent playing in Australia. And it probably, to be fair, it probably is just the NRL team that's creating this perspective of the flip side also being true of struggling at home. Which, maybe that doesn't fly as much for the other teams. So I don't know, but I don't like this theme of Mount Smart being like struggle street, because I was really banking on that with the upgrade, because that's where the All Whites are playing Australia on Tuesday. And I was really banking on that because the All Whites haven't beaten Australia since 2002. It's like 23 years. It's a long time. They haven't even scored in their last 4 or 5 games against them. But guess where they played them in 2002, where they beat them? Brian Nelson with the only goal in a 1-0 win.
Obviously, Mount Smart Stadium. And going back through history, they've played 7 times against Australia at Mount Smart Stadium. I don't know if, it's possible some of those might have been out the back. I don't know like exactly what Mount Smart Stadium, I don't know what the facilities were like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but credited to Mount Smart Stadium as a venue. They've played there 7 times. They've won 3. They've drawn 3. They've only lost once. But they're playing there in a couple of days, and I'm now worried about that. Although maybe like, because Auckland FC were awesome at home, except for in their biggest crowd in the playoffs where they lost. So maybe we just need to not get a big crowd on Tuesday night for the All White Socceroos, and then we can win that one. Maybe that's the trick. Is you gotta juke the trends a little bit. We can't. If they sell that place out, we're just going to get a bad result. So don't sell it out. Tuesday night might help with that. That's a week away, Tuesday, not Tuesday of recording.
Not tonight. Yeah, it's
right.
7 days.
Yeah, sweet. 25,000 is the magic mark for the crowd. And I think they're going to get over 25,000. So they're definitely going to lose that game, which will be a bummer. Or the All Whites, with their beloved young stars minus Alex Paulson and Kakache, but maybe they are the team, maybe they are the players, maybe they are the wizards to shun the bad juju of Mount Smart and bring us back to normality, although normality at Mount Smart Stadium, given the history of previous football teams, of previous Warriors teams, I think it's a big day out curse, actually. That's where I'm coming at, because big day out used to be held at Mount Smart Stadium. Maybe some crazy shit went down. Big day out had to stop because they were aware of the curse, and then everything else has just followed on. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. And also, shout out to Southland. Big Ranfurly Shield things for them, defeating Waikato. And there's 2 things that I have been thinking about with regards to Southland winning the Ranfurly Shield in one of the best sports competitions in Aotearoa, the NPC. First and foremost is that Southland Sharks made the NBL final. And NBL basketball, NPC rugby, to me, they are the 2 best regional, provincial sports competitions in Aotearoa. So shout out to Southland for performing very well in both those competitions. Obviously, they won the Ranfurly Shield. They haven't won the NPC, but Southland Stags, Southland Rugby Union, they're on the up. They've been resurgent. They're building a bit of mana in their rugby program down there. Started with I think they call it Stag Day, playing against Otago, massive crowd in Invercargill. But that came after the Southland Sharks made the NBL final, and doing a fantastic job with their local community as well. So big up to Southland Sport, Jacob Duffy, test debut coming out of Lumsden. That's the extent of my Southland sporting knowledge. But there's this other dude, and I've been quietly observing this dude because I saw him play rugby for Manukau. When Manukau was like doing the unthinkable and they were an awesome team in Auckland. I was like, oh, this dude's got a bit about him. Falatoi Penny, who, to the best of my knowledge, this is all apparently, this is like, I'm not speaking this as a fact. I do deal in facts and figures, but this is just to the best of my knowledge because can't get into the nitty gritty of who was in the Karaka rugby team back in 2021 when they won the counties competition, or, you know, so on and so forth. But to the best of my knowledge, Falatoi Penny, since the pandemic, he has won rugby championships with Karaka in counties Manukau, Manukau and Ponsonby in Auckland, New England in Major League Rugby, and now he's won a Ranfurly Shield with Southland in like 4 years. Maybe 4.5, maybe 5 years. I don't think there is a rugby union player in Aotearoa who has done that much winning as Falatoi Penny. So shout out to him, shout out to Southland Rugby. How would you feel if Northland won the Ranfurly Shield?
They had a crack at it at the start of the season when Taranaki, I think, started the year with it. It was like the first round of the season was the Northland Shield Challenge, and they got thrashed, so it didn't go so well. And I was actually hoping that Waikato would hang on to it because then Northland would get a chance to win it at the end of the season. But I think there is a chance that Waikato could wing it back if Canterbury, I think it is this week, take it off Southland. So that could swing back around. Yeah, I don't know. It hasn't come close to being a possibility since I've been living in Northland, but I'm sure that would unite the folks.
I'm sure there'll be a big game down in Southland against the big dogs of the South Island, Canterbury, going down to Invercargill, and no disrespect to anyone deep down in the deep south, but the old Invercargill Stadium isn't the most like aesthetic. There's just like a big gravel pit where they do all their food cuts and stuff. So it's just great stuff. Shout out to Invercargill, shout out to Southland Rugby, and shout out to Aotearoa Music. Just a couple of Kiwi music things. New project on the way, or there's at least a new single from Tom Scott, who, I mean, if Falatoi Penny just wins everything everywhere he goes, Tom Scott's recent run of musical releases is legendary. Like off the top of my head, that Avondale Bowling Club project, then there was the Trees project, and I'm definitely missing what there was the Homebrew project where they combined, and now he's got another project which sounds completely different to all the other ones. I think Tom Scott's on a legendary run. We've also got new projects from the Beths, who are pretty cool. I don't mind a bit of Balu Bragana as well with their musical stuff. Polly Hill and Samara Alofa have a remix project which has a bunch of Aotearoa artists like Mokotron remixing some tunes there, so that's good for a bit of the old wobble, or good for the old bit of doof. And just learning about George Villa, who's got a nice little style as well, bit of guitar music, a bit of chill vibes from him. Have I missed anyone as far as new Aotearoa music that you want to highlight?
No, because the one I would have highlighted is the new Beth's album, which I haven't had a chance to listen to it fully through, so I've only heard the new singles and stuff, but sounds like a Beth's album. Sounds nice and sharp. I was enjoying watching them as well, and they'd have like the Amoeba record store in like California do that thing where it's like, what's in my bag? They have a YouTube channel where they bring in people to just go shopping for stuff, and I was watching them on that the other day. The guitarist and the lead singer were both on that, and like hyping up a bit of Split Ends, talking about the history of Kiwi music and some of this stuff. So spreading the gospel as well as spreading the tunes,
Speaking of spreading the gospel, we'll get a bit of mindfulness, but I did, obviously big fans of Tom Bombadil around these ways, and I am doing a bit of research about Tom Bombadil and his character, and one description of Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings that I did appreciate was that in Lord of the Rings you got this big battle between the good and the bad, the light and the dark forces of Middle Earth, but Tom Bombadil's just doing his own thing. He's not involved. And the point of Tom Bombadil is that he's just being Tom Bombadil. He's just being. That's it. He's just there in the world. He's not good or bad. He's not light and dark. He's just Tom Bombadil existing. And I like that idea, especially as the world gets a little bit crazier day by day, and we're all just trying to do our best. Just be there. Just do your own thing. You don't have to engage in the light and the dark, the good and the bad. You can just be Tom Bombadil living his best life in a forest.
Yeah, there's a point in the thing where I think when they're in Rivendell talking about what are we going to do with this ring, there's a point where Bilbo says, well, why don't we just give it to Bombadil? And Gandalf says, well, we can't do that because he's just going to forget about it. The ring has no power over him. He doesn't care about it. He's just going to leave it and lose it in a bloody river or something like that. So yeah, I mean, he's not even being Tom Bombadil. He's just, like you say, he's just being. He just is. He's just a force of the forest that just is.
Let's get some proper mindfulness. Well, Tom Bombadil, Lord of the Rings.
That was proper mindfulness.
Yeah, that's it doesn't get any more proper than that. But I'm sure you did have some impeccable research about your mindfulness that you need to tell us.
Well, I can always tell when I'm dipping into it doesn't show up on the thing. When I'm dipping into the books, you can always tell that I left it to the last minute to do my impeccable research. But this is from Rumi, Persian poet, one of the many sort of familiar wells that they've gone dip in the bucket into to get these over the episodes. When every day you scrape a little soil from a mountain and don't replace it, one day there will be no mountain left.
No, like all good mindfulness, that's open to interpretation. So it's you might be sad that the mountain is gone because you're not replacing what you take. But the first thing that came to my mind is if you do something small every day, then you can achieve or do something or have a big impact.
You can move a mountain.
Apparently so, yeah. I don't know if you're moving it, you're just destroying it. But
Yes.
it's
Vaporizing it, yeah.
If you did 10 press-ups every day, then you're doing something. If you save 10 cents every day, maybe 50 cents might be better, maybe $1 might be better, maybe $10 might be better. But if you're doing something small every day, over time, that does add up. So I don't know if that was the point of the mindfulness. I think the point of the mindfulness might have been if you take something and then put it back, then you keep the mountain intact. But I also like the idea of just something small as frequently as possible, because a lot of people, they're like, I'm going to run a marathon. Well, what's if you just ran 100 meters every day? That might put you in a better position than all this huff and puffing about doing a marathon that you might stop running afterwards. That's just my personal belief, is just something small every day, and then you take the mountain away.
Yeah, I ran 2 half marathons and stopped running afterwards. 2 half marathons equals 1 marathon. I didn't stop running because I wanted to. I stopped running because I injured my knee. So It's still not back to that shape. Oh, it might be back to that shape at
But
this
see,
point. I might be
your
able to push
knee,
through, but
your knees, your bad backs from a long line of
yeah,
bad backs,
all
whatever it is,
them things.
might be better off if you just ran 100 meters every day.
Maybe more than 100. Like if I could run 21 kilometers, I probably could. A couple Ks maybe would have
Hey, you're the
been
one
able
with the
to do
bad
that
knees,
without
you know?
damage. But yeah, because I did 21,000 meters rather than 100 meters. I guess I think that's right. I'm not going to do maths in the middle of the thing, but yeah, like I think the Rumi quote is implying like don't take more than you give.
Yep.
But I do like that other interpretation of, let's say the mountain is a metaphor for something that you're trying to overcome. Chip away at it little bit by little bit by little bit. Don't replace whatever that like negative force presence happens to be that we're representing with this mountain analogy. Like, don't replace it with anything. Slowly over time, it evaporates.
If we're getting into the wellness style of things, and obviously meditation, everyone's like, yeah, I want to meditate. So they try and meditate for like half an hour. Well, what's if you just meditated for 5 minutes every day? That's going to give you a very solid platform to move forward. Like, oh shit, I need to start exercising more. Well, instead of signing up for the gym, what's if you just tried to do 10, 20 press ups every day? Oh shit, I need to change my whole diet. I need to eat healthy. Well, what's if you just did something small every day? What's if you just drank another bottle of water every day? There's so many small things that you can do consistently that will eventually have really good results, maybe even better results than some sort of grand plan that you may have. And speaking of grand plans, the Breakers have a grand plan for the 2025 NBL season. The Blitzers, they are the Blitz champions, and who cares about the Blitz, right? I'm not here to get your thoughts on the Blitz. I'm not here for your any Blitz. Don't mention Blitz. Don't talk about Blitz. I am only interested in some scouting because we got some imports who I need to acquaint myself with. And one of those imports was Mr. Brockington. Isaiah Brockington, who was Blitzer, #1, MVP, numero tahi. What kind of player is Mr. Brockington?
What kind of player is he? Let me think. I mean, I didn't watch like full start to end of either of their Blitz games because, like you said, who really cares about the Blitz? It's a preseason tournament. That's not even a real tournament because every team just plays 2 games and they pick a winner after 2 games, which doesn't add up to much. But the Breakers did win both their games, and Isaiah Brockington was excellent in both of them. Scored, I think it was 18 points in one, 20 odd points in the other. Got a few rebounds. He looks like he might be a good outside shooter, but he certainly looks like he's going to be pretty solid scoring, like inside the key. Gets to the rim, very, very athletic, like fast, strong. He's bigger than Parker Jackson Cartwright, which is important because so far everything I've said just applies to Parker Jackson Cartwright as much as it does to Brockington, and they signed this guy to be the complementary piece alongside PJC. So it's like you don't compliment him with just another guy who does the exact same stuff. So he's like, I don't think he's the passer that Jackson Cartwright is, but he is a bigger body. He is a bit more forceful off the dribble. And I think he has the potential to be a very good 3-point shooter, but I don't think he really showed that to his full extent in these early games. But like, he showed more than enough to get excited about that and to think like this is a very handy bit of scouting. This is a solid addition for the Breakers, and Jackson Cartwright only played about 4 minutes in the second game as well. So Brockington really got to take over and be kind of like the main man in the spotlight. Which, you compare this to last year's Blitz, That's when Freddie Gillespie got suspended because he punched, was it like Sean Bruce or someone like that? He like slapped him in the head or something dumb. Got himself suspended for that. And so everyone's thinking, well, this Freddie Gillespie guy is a disaster. What's going on here? Fast forward a few months, he was the team's arguable best player, certainly their best defender. Then they got rid of him to sign Zak Foulkes. So architects of their own demise. That was a previous era. We don't have to worry about that anymore, thankfully. But
I was going to say, like, thanks for bringing it up again. Like, we're trying to be in 2025 with the grand plan of NBL glory. So, who cares about Freddie Gillespie, to be honest?
He'd have been handy. What a shame. But what we did see was, first of all, no Rob Lowe, no Rob Baker the second as well. I don't know why people need seconds and thirds and fourths. You just Rob Baker. Your dad was Rob Baker and you're Rob Baker. I don't like to say Baker the second all the time. It's annoying. And I know you don't like Roman numerals either. So, so there we go. We'll just call him Mr. Baker. So he wasn't there because he was playing for USA, apparently, at the, like, there's some like Pan American games or something like that where they just pick, I don't know, non-NBA player. I don't know how he ended up getting that call up, but he was there playing. He just sounds like he did all right. So he wasn't available yet. Rob Lowe's still injured, and Kareem Lopez also wasn't there. So two of those three guys are probably going to be starting players. So they were without a couple guys there. What does that mean? Your depth steps up. The depth that everyone in Australia seems to think the Breakers don't have any of. Well, Ruben Tarangi scored at least 15 points in both games. So he's supposed to be the guy who can't shoot. Great leader, great defender, can't shoot at all. Well, he scored a bunch of points in these two games. So he clearly defied some expectations. Didn't see a massive amount of Max Darling or Carla Davison, probably because they're fresh off, or Taylor Britt for that matter, probably because they're all fresh off Tall Blacks duty. So it was like, let's not overexert them when they've just been away for a month playing some fairly intense international stuff. But Isaiah Le'afa had certainly one of those games. He was pretty handy. And actually the Australian fella, the last remaining Australian on the roster, Sean Besto, was quite good as well. I think he scored double figures in both games. So he's someone who I was thinking, like, I don't know if you are still a Breakers player if you didn't happen to have a 2-year contract. I don't think they would have re-signed you. They didn't re-sign Mojave King. They didn't re-sign, I think Mitch McCarron retired, but they didn't re-sign Jonah Bolden or whoever. It's probably a good decision on that one because you're trying to reset the culture. But Besto was probably a little bit lucky to be hanging around. It's just a circumstance if they weren't going to cut your contract. You have a contract, they're going to respect that. But he looked really good in this. So he might be someone who gets a new lease of life benefiting from the new look Breakers. So it's a lot of good stuff in there. And also, of course, goes without saying, but Sam Meninga, awesome. Both games. And Sam Meninga, who has had a very busy off-season since we last saw him. Didn't go on the Tall Black stuff, didn't play NZNBL, but he did go over to Puerto Rico, I think, and played superb basketball there for a few months in their professional league. And then, of course, went and had a little bit of a summer league excursion with the Los Angeles Lakers. So he's kept himself very, very busy and is absolutely primed for what we hope will be his biggest NBL season so far, and certainly the most consistent because he's shown immense flashes in both of his previous years. He just hasn't really had that like start to finish week in, week out stuff. Don't think that was his fault last year. I think, again, the Taco Fall stuff kind of spoiled it for him, but that's not something they have to worry about moving forward. So I fully expect Sam Meninga to be probably the most dominant of the New Zealanders in the squad. Probably the only New Zealander who's actually in the starting 5, but we know they've got depth full of like Tall Blacks internationals who, none of the Aussie experts seem to expect them to do anything, but we've just seen a pretty good example at the Blitz that actually, maybe they will. And that should only improve when you start to get guys like Rob Lowe back as well, and maybe Darling and Davison level up a little bit more, get a few more minutes. Taylor Britt, certainly. All good stuff. All very, very promising signs. The Blitz stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter that they won. Even Brockington getting MVP, like you've MVP after 2 games. Congratulations. It doesn't really say a whole lot, but shrug off the accolade. The fact is he played really well in these 2 games. Like he did win that for a reason. He did look good. He fitted in very nicely around his teammates, and everything seems to be pointing in the right direction, which is what we hope to see and probably I think you and I certainly kind of expected to see from the Breakers. When Stylen Boucher comes in and starts calling a lot of shots, we see the direction they're heading and we see the intentions that they're trying to bring to how they're putting this team together. A lot of patience in a few ways, like they took their time in making sure they got the right guy to in the role that ended up being Brockington and Baker. So all good stuff. And I think we can be a little bit one step closer to vindication from what we were saying last week about expecting them to be a team that can challenge, if not certainly make the NBL finals. I think they've dropped a bit more evidence that they're heading in that direction.
And also Ledger, they got Ledger. What's his first name?
Which one did they get? I think they got Josh Ledger rather than
the big
he
man,
also has a brother, Will Ledger, who plays, and of course they are cousins of the Ledger Walker sisters.
There you
but
go.
That was, I think that was just like a couple of injuries. No Lopez, no Low for the Blitz. But if they're bringing him up, I think you can probably expect he might have like unofficial training player capacities once the season gets going. You know, probably hang around and be a body in those kind of situations. That is more good progress for the team, like more good development, doing something for the local players.
Yeah, they just added him to his roster. Yeah, so Rob Baker, you go do a Google search.
First or second?
Well, hold your horses. The ProBallers.com is Rob Baker Jr. So that might not be him. It might be a different guy. But I do find it baffling that an American person would use Roman numerals as the second. Now, obviously, you're going to use Roman numerals because you're not just going to write Rob Baker 2. Like that's not cool. So if you do Rob Baker II, then it just looks a whole lot cooler. But we're not in Rome. So I don't know why you would use Roman numerals for your name. And I also just one random thing. There was I did see something where Glenn Rice Jr. had a fight with Lance Stevenson in the Big Three competition, and that of course is Glenn Rice Jr. who had a fantastic stint with the New Zealand Breakers, and he was someone that the former leader of the Breakers, to show where the Breakers were and where they've come from and where they're heading, Matt Walsh, in all his wisdom, absolutely loved Glenn Rice Jr., Glenn Rice the second. And if you do any research about Glenn Rice the second, you would realize how silly Matt Walsh was.
They actually had quotes when they signed him about how like this is the perfect environment for turning him around, and a few weeks later he was suspended. Guess why? He started a fight.
Shout out to the Canberra Raiders. They are NRL minor premiers, and they have pretty heavy dose of Aotearoa flavour in this minor premiership, starting with Joseph Tapine, who I think is the best player from Aotearoa. I think that is that applies to New Zealand Kiwis, and it applies to Kiwi NRL. So all players from Aotearoa, regardless of whatever international team they want to represent, I think Joseph Tapine is the best player from New Zealand right now. And as I said earlier in the season, he's been in really good rugby league form for the last few years especially. But now he is the leader of the Canberra Raiders, and he's the leader. I think he's the best player for the Raiders, and they just won the minor premiership, going 19 and 4 this season, 4 points clear with 1 round to play. Shout out Joseph Tapine. He's played 20 plus games in 7 of his 10 seasons with the Raiders. He started with the Newcastle Knights, then he wiggled out of Newcastle and moved to the Raiders. He has had 20 plus games in 4 consecutive seasons. He's had 120 plus run meters per game in 6 consecutive seasons, which sharpens to over 140 meters per game in his last 4 seasons. 93% tackling or higher in 7 consecutive seasons. 20 plus offloads in 6 consecutive seasons. 40 plus tackle breaks in 4 consecutive seasons. To me, Joseph Tapine, he's the best player from Aotearoa, and I find it hard to argue that he's the best forward in the NRL right now. But of course, there's trendier players, there's cooler players, whether they are from cooler teams or just they are Australians. But Joseph Tapine deserves to be celebrated as a current legend of Aotearoa Rugby League. And it's been really cool to see him step up as a leader with the Raiders this season, especially because you think about some of the senior players they've lost, the Croker, Elliot Whitehead, Jordan Rapana, Bateman a few years ago, Nickel Clockstar from their grand final team. But Joseph Tapine is still there with Josh Papali'i, and he's playing career best footy. So shout out to him. The other guys have all... This is the cool thing about the Raiders system. The Raiders don't have a lot of Kiwi NRL players in their junior system. They recruited Jensen Taumoipiao, who was he was part of the Cowboys, I think, last season. I think he started with the Rabbitohs, then he went to the Sharks, and then he went up north. He's from Taranaki. He has been a regular player in their New South Wales Cup team on the wing. And the only other Kiwi NRL player in their system, like Kiwi NRL junior from Aotearoa, I think is Siamanu Luluwai from up north as well, who is part of the illustrious Luluwai whānau, and of course Mali Luluwai playing football, doing some good stuff over in England as well. But I haven't seen Siamani Luluwai very recently, so I'm not sure what he's up to. But that is to say, the Raiders don't have a lot of Kiwi NRL juniors in their system. But all the players who have played NRL this season, they keep getting better. And there is clear development in how these players perform. Matthew Tomoko, he has played 20 plus games in his last 4 seasons. And he is just an absolute weapon at centre. I think he's one of the best centres in the NRL, just straight up and down. He's from Auckland, obviously Aotearoa Kiwis international. Sebastian Chris didn't play this weekend, but he keeps getting better as well. He played the 2022 World Cup, for the Kiwis, and I think he is part of my top outside back, my top tier for the outside backs, whether it's centre or wing. I think Sebastian Chris is lined up to return to the Kiwis. And then they've got Simi Sasangi, who they recruited from the Newcastle Knights, and he has played almost twice as many games in 2 seasons with the Raiders as he did with the Knights. And he's done a great job filling in at centre, a little bit of edge forward, offering that versatility for the Raiders. And every time he steps in, starting centre, starting edge forward, or coming off the bench, he does a good job. And then we've got Ata Mariota from Manurewa, who is just offering great impact off the bench, and he has quietly played 16, 23, and 23 games in his last 3 seasons, regular on the bench. I expect Sasangi and Mariota to line up for Samoa this year. Sebastian Chris might return to the Kiwis. Matthew Tomoko is a starting centre for the Kiwis, and obviously Joseph Tapine is awesome. And also shout out, I did poke fun at the Raiders women, but they followed up that win against 11 players for the Warriors with 2 more wins. So I made fun of them that their only win might come against 11 players, but they've had 2 wins since then, so they've won 3 in a row, and they've got 4 of their 5 outside backs that played against the Tigers are from Aotearoa: Mackenzie Wiki, Leanta Funga, Shael Robbins-Reti, Isabella Waterman, and then they also have Tatiana Finau, who is a really good young forward, starting edge forward against the Tigers, getting games on the bench, starting as well. She is from Auckland. And that's not even the full Raiders crew, because Madison Bartlett isn't playing at the moment. Amelia Pasakala is not playing, and Kirihatina Matua isn't playing as well. And Tatiana Finau's younger sister, Claudia Finau, she suffered a season-ending injury just before the season started, I believe. So that was a bummer for her. And just sticking with the young forwards for the women's side of things, it was an interesting matchup, Warriors versus Dragons. Last week, Dragons won. Another tough game for the Warriors, and they will be playing against the Broncos this week, so it doesn't get any easier for them. But the Dragons had Trinity Taueniai, who Wainui Amata Jr. from Wellington, and there needs to be said once again, Joseph Tapine is from Wellington, Alexis Taueniai is from Wellington. The two best forwards from Aotearoa right now are both from Wellington. And Trinity Taueniai isn't far away from that type of status. Well, she is a bit far away, but she's on the right track. And she played 54 minutes against the Warriors. I think she is 18 years old. She might have turned 19. But the Warriors forwards, the thing about the Warriors women is it's very difficult for them to win games right now because of how much their depth is tested. I think I counted 26 players have been used this season for the Warriors women in how many games? 9 games, 26 players. And off the top of my head, the Warriors have used like 29 or 30 players in 23 games. So the Warriors have played 23 games, used 29 or 30 players. The women have used 26 players in 9 games. Most of whom, well, not like roughly, most, just over half, were born after the start of the year 2000. So there's a lot of young players in that Warriors women's team. But against Trinity Taueniai, you had Ashley Matapo, who is an 18-year-old. There was Lavinia Kitai, I think she's an Australian, but she's a young forward as well. And you also got Ivana Lauatiti, who wasn't playing that game. There's a lot of young forwards coming out of Aotearoa doing a great job on the women's side of thing as well. And now the Warriors women, they will be playing against the Broncos, who are not the best team in NRLW, but they do have a very talented group of ladies from Aotearoa in their team, and they are really fun to watch as well. They had a big win over the Bulldogs, 44-0. And in that team against the Bulldogs, you had Kerry Johnson from Kaikoui, Meli Hofunga from Auckland, Gail Broughton from Hawara Taranaki, Aneta Nu'uasalas from Auckland, Brianna Clark, Kiwi Fan International, she is from Australia. And we haven't even had much Tafito Lafa'ele or Azalea Maka for the Broncos this season as well. Azalea Maka has been 18th woman player a few times this season, so watch out for her. She seems likely to debut, might even be back on Aotearoa soil this week against the Warriors woman. That's a really talented group of rugby league players from Aotearoa, and they, along with the Roosters, they are the best teams in NRLW, but the Roosters only have Amber Hall at the moment, so the Broncos are just better as a Aotearoa team. Don't think the Warriors women will win that game, but it will be interesting to see how they perform and if they can make it competitive against a very good Broncos women's team. And then we got the Warriors men up against the Sea Eagles Friday night, 8 p.m. but not at Mount Smart. That's in Australia. So we got the same. It's all the same Friday night action, but it is in Australia against the Sea Eagles. And the Eagles game was a bummer. But you kind of like, as soon as Josh Adokar was running away with that try, with like the first touch of the ball for the Eels, so this isn't good, because the Eels have the best kicker. And if the Eels are leading, they're just going to keep pinning the Warriors down in their territory, which is what happened. And I actually think the Warriors, given that, they did well because their back three is a strength of how they play their rugby league. And if the Eels have an advantage, they scored another try pretty soon after, I think, to make it 12-0. Well, then the Eels are just controlling the game. And they're just like putting the ball in Warriors territory and making them work out of that end over and over again, because Mitchell Moses has a long kick that goes really long. I don't think it's the longest kicking game, because I think that goes to Matt Burton. But Mitchell Moses is a really, really good kicker. And if you give him a 6-point lead, a 12-point lead, it's going to be very difficult for a team like the Warriors, who, as you said, they're a bit more grindy. They're a bit more stick to the process, stick to the system. They don't necessarily have the razzle-dazzle flair to make up the points in that type of contest. But they still almost won the game. And I think that is a reinforcement of their back three, because they kept them in the game. Like, yes, the Eels pinned the Warriors down their own territory. Good kick chase. They're a fast-moving team. Much faster team than the Warriors, because the Warriors are slow. Aaron Clark is the only player with like relative speed for his position. I think like Tanner Stowers has a bit of speed. Obviously, the youngsters are mobile, but they're not necessarily fast for their positions. Where that Eels team, there's a lot of speed in that team. Adokar, Iongi, Mitchell Moses is pretty quick for a halfback. So that was challenging for the Warriors. But the back three did a good job of just keeping the Warriors in the contest, working out of their own end, setting up the sets, and I don't know, like, they weren't that good, but they still almost won it. And I think that is a positive if we're trying to find the positives. You know, I don't think like the experience was very positive of watching that game or being part of that game. But a few referee decisions, a few knock-ons and all that stuff, but whatever. They lost. And now they come into this game against the Sea Eagles, and the back three is going to be very important in winning the game against the Sea Eagles. Mainly because I think the Warriors just like have a better team, and the Sea Eagles are fast. They got Jason Saab, they got Kohler. They do have speed in their team, but I don't think their forward pack is very fast. So I'm not scared about their forward pack in that regard. So I think that the Warriors, if they can start their sets well with that back three, Nickel Clockstar averaging 185 metres per game, Tuivasa Sheck averaging 218 metres per game. Watene Zelezniak, credit to him, he has been better over the past month, and he's now averaging 119 metres per game. So that is the recipe for the Warriors starting their sets really well. Obviously, that is a key element of their grit and grind style of footy. But the back three can start the sets well. And they play very direct. But after that, I thought the Warriors, they went a bit sideways. And my lasting image from that game was when Mitchell Moses tackled Harris Tavita, and he just took him over the sideline. And to me, that summed up the Warriors' attack, because the Warriors everything was going towards the sideline. Right there. There's two examples that aren't exactly related. It's not like a perfect scientific experiment here, but the image of Mitchell Moses tackling Harris Tavita over the side. Now, like if you're running towards the sideline, it's an easier tackle to wrap you up and just use that momentum to push you over the sideline, right? Like that makes sense. That is physics, I believe, not a scientist. But you don't need to be like, Mitchell Moses isn't massive, but in that tackle, he was massive because of the momentum, because of the energy going towards the sideline. So you got that. I think that happened a few times where the runner is running diagonally towards the sideline, but there's nothing else coming back, right? There's no angles coming back infield. Marata Niukore was doing it sometimes, and he's actually been really good over recent weeks. But all the angles are going to the sideline, and then another thing is you don't have dummy half running. So if you don't have dummy half running, that is the most direct attack. And you're going out to the sideline. So none of that is really going to help you overpower a team in attack. Not necessarily like overpower in terms of we're going to be able to score points against you, we're going to work you over and manipulate you how we want to. Everything was just going sideways, but there wasn't the balance of players cutting back infield, and you had no running threat out of dummy half because Wade Egan, for some reason, he just did nothing. And Tamaita Martin, like they said in commentary, like the Warriors' attack looked better when Tamaita Martin came in at dummy half, but he wasn't running the ball. And as I'm saying all this, I have to remind myself that they almost won the game. So it's like they weren't doing any of this shit, but they still almost scored. They scored over 20 points, and they almost scored, a few points away from 30 points in this game. But against the Sea Eagles, I would like to see them. You got the back three, that's a foundation element. I want to see some more dummy half running, and I want to see more angles coming back infield. For some reason, the Warriors don't really attack the space behind the ruck. Marata Niukore stood out against the Eels because a few of his runs were going back in behind the ruck. That's where he made his advantage. That's where I want to see Roger Tuivasa-Sheck run the ball, right? Like, if he's using his footwork around the ruck, it's going to be awesome. Instead, those type of runners, Nickel Klokstad, Tuivasa-Sheck, and some of the props like Fisher Harris, they get the ball and they just run into four defenders. Like, Tuivasa-Sheck's footwork doesn't matter if there's four defenders right in front of him. But if you put him where there's like one defender in front of him and there's a big space either side of him, that footwork is going to work every time. And I don't think the Warriors make the most of that space around the ruck. Even when Taintua Piki was playing, it was like he is someone who should be just sprinting behind the ruck every time. And they don't really do it. I think they just prefer to pass it and have someone run into five blokes and get smashed. So, not sure
or
if
thrown
that,
over the sideline.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just a... I don't think no dummy half runs from the hookers is part of the plan. Overall, the Warriors had 2 dummy half runs in the whole game for 11 meters. The Eels had 9 dummy half runs for 66 meters. No dummy half running, above average dummy half running. No dummy half running can't be part of the plan. Surely that is not part of the plan where Coach Webster's just like, nah, no dummy half running, guys, just don't do it. So I'm curious to see what happens against the Sea Eagles because the Warriors, they need a win. If they don't win against the Sea Eagles, then they're fumbling into the finals. And they're coming off back-to-back losses into the finals. And that is going to be an issue. So I think they need to win against the Seagulls, and like, it's not complicated. We're not talking about crazy tactics here. It's just like, can we have a dummy half run or two? Can we have some different angles working here? Can we use some of our faster players like Aaron Clark? Instead of using your speed and power to run into three dudes, can you get behind the ruck? So then you can start to get some momentum. Then you can make dudes miss tackles. Because let's be honest, another thing that's not going to happen is you're not going to have Isaiah Iongi pushing up in support for an offload, because the Warriors just don't have that type of speed. And I think like Kalma Tuolangi, he made a break and then he fell over and he made a pass. Like, those type of plays, you need to have someone fast enough to follow up and burst through the line. The Warriors don't have that. So I don't expect them to make a break or a half break behind the ruck, get an offload, then you've got a line break. I don't expect that to happen, but at least just try get some quick play the balls and work over those middle defenders instead of one pass get smashed or two passes get smashed, because the shifts are a bit lethargic as well. And even saying that, Pompey's scoring tries. You know, these dudes out on the edges are doing some stuff. Leka Halasima scored tries against the Eels as well. So they can still score points. But against the Seagulls, I think there are more efficient and effective ways to win the game, score your points, and keep the Sea Eagles out of the contest. You would know about the Seagulls because they smoked your Dragons 40-24. Do you have any notes to help set up the Warriors game versus the Sea Eagles, considering the Dragons couldn't keep it a contest against the Sea Eagles?
Yeah, try tackling would be a good start. I didn't watch a lot of that game because first of all I forgot it was on, and then I remembered. I was like, oh shit, it was like a 7:30 kickoff or something like that. For some reason I thought it was on later, and so I missed the start. Check the score, and it's like the Dragons are 20-0 down already or something stupid at some point, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to watch that. I don't know if I want to spend my Saturday night putting myself through that. So I didn't at first, and then they scored a couple quick tries, and I'm like, all right, let's get that stream going. We're gonna do this. So I'm gonna see how this goes. And then of course, as soon as I got the stream going, they started conceding a bunch of points again, and I missed the good stuff and only saw the disappointing stuff. Yeah, I don't think the Warriors are capable of defending that poorly. So I think there's not a lot of parallels. I don't think those teams play I don't think there's a massive overlap between how the Warriors and the Dragons play. There's a few elements, but not enough to like to base a preview around. But yes, the Dragons are a good defensive team sometimes, but they certainly weren't then, and they don't. I don't know. They just got too many players missing. It's end of season blues for them. They've kind of thoughts are drifting towards Mad Monday, perhaps, but Warriors don't have to worry about that. I don't think they're like it's a few mishaps against the Eels, but I don't think they're capable of being that messy. Particularly around the ruck. The Dragons have had a couple games this season where like the Cowboys shredded them in the same way, where it's like this is undoing a lot of the good stuff you've done in other games. But at least there's injuries to lean on. But yes, I don't think the Warriors are going to have the same problem.
Yeah, I don't care about the Dragons. I was more interested in the Seagulls. So,
well, I don't watch my team to view the opposition. Like I'll pick up a thing here or there, but I'm not normally,
What about Jazz Tafanga? He's pretty good.
He's all right. Didn't notice him in the time I was watching.
So yes, the Warriors will be playing the Seagulls. Big game, need a win Friday night, and we'll be all over that as usual. There's also this funky story. Like the lead football thing is the All Whites squad update. and some early Ashes preview ideas. But I do want to just put this out there because Auckland FC did lose in the Aussie Cup. But based on what the, I think it's Heidelberg, otherwise known as Heisenberg FC.
Heisenberg FC, that's it.
Based on what they have done against some A-League teams, there's no shame for Auckland FC losing. Can you just update what Heisenberg FC have been up to in cooking their A-League oppositions?
Yeah, well played. They beat Western Sydney Wanderers 3-0. They beat the Wellington Phoenix 4-0. They beat Auckland FC 2-0. So, excuse me. What's that add up to? Nine goals scored, 0 conceded in 3 consecutive games against A-League opponents. So I don't know. There's something going on there, and they seem like they might just be a really good team. So it is a disappointing one for Auckland FC because it is another semi-final defeat. It's maybe not as important as the last one, but it is still a trophy that they weren't able to win. But I don't know. For a team that scored as many late decisive goals as they did last season, I really, even when they seemed like they were struggling to break down Heidelberg and weren't really creating a whole lot of good opportunities, I still kind of felt the whole way in the back of my head like, well, they're going to score a goal eventually. If the 95th minute, they're going to get one at some point. And that didn't happen, but it didn't happen because they conceded a couple before they were able to get to that stage. I don't know. Like maybe eye off the ball a little bit, I'm not sure, but really what turned it was that just Michael Boxall came rushing out of his box and didn't win the ball and allowed them to score, and that just changes the entire complexion of the game when there's a goal scored with 15 minutes to go. That's the whole point about the late goals, is that there's really not much time to reply to those. And yeah, it's a bummer for Boxall because I thought he'd been really good up until that point. He made a save in the penalty shootout in the previous round. He'd kept a clean sheet or two before that. I thought he'd been like, it had looked like there is going to be, let's be real about it, there will be a drop off between Alex Paulson to Michael Boxall as the next goalkeeper. That is something they're going to have to make up for in other ways, I guess, because they're not going to be quite as comprehensive at the back like that. But I think Boxall's a good goalkeeper, and he's had a lot of good spells through his career. But he is someone who can be prone to a cock up here and there. Like, he does have the odd shocker in him like that, and it's a frustrating one because every time he does anything, all I see is people bringing up like the game against Honduras at the Olympics, two Olympics ago, which yeah, he had a bad game in that one. He was just responsible for a couple of goals in there. Was not good. He was also really good against Japan in the next round, where I think it was a 0-0 draw where we lost on penalties against the hosts of that tournament. Like, he's played. There's also several years ago. There's been a whole other Olympics since then. Like, reputations can die hard in sports sometimes, and he seems to have that. But like I say, that the Honduras game is a freak incident. Like, any goalkeeper can have a game like that, and he's already more than made up for that in the time since. But it's also would be a lie not to say that compared to other Kiwi goalkeepers at the moment, he is one that is a little more prone to the odd lapse like that. Ironically, I don't know if it's ironic, tragically, I think the other guy who I put in that category of being a top level, international caliber, competing for all white selection type goalkeeper who makes the odd shocking blunder here or there. I think the other guy who's in that category with Boxall is Ollie Sale, who's his backup. So I don't know if that's great for Auckland FC, but I'll just have to battle through it. Like I said, there's going to be a drop-off anyway for a goalkeeper position. You're just going to make up for it elsewhere. Maybe they'll score a few more goals this year compared to conceding as few as they did last time.
Where does Zak Jones rank in your reliability index? For those who don't know, Zak Jones and Luke Brooks-Smith, I think, called up to the all-white squad to replace Kakache, who's staying with Wrexham, and Paulson, who's staying with the Polish people. Zak Jones,
Henry Gray.
Henry Gray, sorry, is it Henry Gray?
Yeah, Zak Jones would rank high on my reliability
Right.
ranks, though. I think he's been really good playing in Wales for a couple of years, and now this year he's moved to AFC Filed, I think it's pronounced Filed, in England, which is like sixth tier and lower than I would have liked. I think he's capable of playing higher, but also like those opportunities. Just because you're good enough doesn't mean there's an opportunity there waiting for you, like ready to go. So that didn't happen straight away for him, but I think he's like the way I framed it when he signed there is he's playing in the same level that Max Crocombe was playing at the same age. And look where Max Crocombe is now. So Zak Jones is working his way up, but he's 20, 23, 24, 25, something like that in that range. I think it is a very crucial point to say that Henry Gray is 20 years old. And he's not, I don't think he's as good a goalkeeper as Zak Jones, let alone others they could have called up, Michael Vowd being one of them, like more senior established players once Paulson was withdrawn. But I think that's the point. I think that's the point of why Henry Gray and Luke Brooks-Smith have been called up is because of their age, because there is an under-20s World Cup coming up in 4 weeks. And these two are going to be key players for that. Henry Gray will probably be the starting goalkeeper. I don't know if Albie Kelly-Heald will get back in time from injury. Maybe, like they were talking about, that might still be a possibility. Someone like Joe Wallace is one to look at. I think he's eligible for that squad. Yeah, yes, because he was the backup kid to Gray on the Chile tour. He recently made a match day squad for West Brom's first team. So in a championship game, they just had an extra spot on the bench, so they put a second reserve goalkeeper. It wasn't like he jumped the queue or anything, or no one was injured. He was no closer to playing. They just put a third goalkeeper in the squad for that game. But that's still a big opportunity for Wallace because it shows that he is the third goalkeeper in that squad. So he's in a good spot. But Gray's going to be the starter there, and Luke Brooks-Smith is going to be one of their most important attacking players, even though he'll be playing at an under-20 World Cup, still eligible to play at the under-17 World Cup that's happening in November in 2 additional months, which I don't know if he'll go to. Like, if you've already been to an under-20 World Cup and you're likely to be a first-choice, at least squad member for the Wellington Phoenix this year, which that will be during the season, the under-20 World Cup is just beforehand, maybe overlapping a little bit with the start, but you're not going to miss too much, whereas a November trip is obviously going to take a bigger chunk out of it. I don't know if they'll let him go to the under-17 World Cup. I kind of hope they do because I want to see Luke Brooks-Smith do what Millie Clegg did and make 3 squads within the space of 12 months, an under-17 World Cup, an under-20 World Cup, and a senior World Cup. Luke Brooks-Smith has that opportunity, and now he's in the senior All Whites team, so he's at least in the horizon. Don't think he'll make the World Cup squad. That's a little bit harder because, as I say, this is a bit of a convenient one, late withdrawals. Let's get in a couple of key players from the under-20 World Cup squad and sort of tune them up a little bit more leading into that event. And maybe they'll play, maybe they won't. If Luke Brooks-Smith does play, it won't make him the youngest ever All-Whites debutant, but it will make him the youngest one for about 40 years because the only guy in like recent times who's debuted younger or around the same age Chris Wood, who was like 17 years and 4 or 5 months when he played his first game. Luke Brooks-Smith is 17 years and 1 month, so he'd be beating out Chris Wood for that if he plays. He might also just be in the squad to like build up some numbers and go for things. And they've got 22, 23 players, whatever it is in there. They'll including like Kakache drops out. They didn't actually pick another left back because they already had McGarry and De Vries. Probably a good opportunity for De Vries to get to play a bit of left back from the start, like not just last 15 minutes chucked on the left wing, whipping some crosses, actually get to like play your best position. Because there's not a lot of, I think I'm pretty sure this was a podcast thing we talked about a bit recently, like with Ryan Thomas being called up and the options that they have in midfield and the ability to be like, even if one of your key midfielders is out, you can still pick an extremely good midfield trio. And thinking on that more, I've like sort of hardened on the idea that really the only 2 irreplaceable players that the All Whites have are Chris Wood and Libby Kakache. Well, Libby Kakache is not now going on this tour, even though he did come back from injury on the weekend, even though he did play that game. he's still no doubt managing his hamstring. He didn't play 90 minutes, and it's probably just the wise thing to not travel halfway around the world, play 2 more games, fly back. Fair enough. Like, you just do what you got to do. And it is, as I say, a nice little window for Francis de Vries, which doesn't come around very often because Kakachi plays almost every single game. Wood at least drops in and out a little bit more because he is a little bit more injury prone, and he does just the nature of what is required from him at his club team. That's just how it goes. But he is still in the squad, and he will be playing these games, and hopefully he'll be scoring some goals against Australia because we haven't done that for a long time.
I do see that you've got your All Whites team in our newsletter, your preferred All Whites team from the current squad. Shout out to all the paid subscribers on Substack, thenishcase.substack.com. Shout out to all the Patreon whānau. We appreciate your support. Lots of information for the generous folks funding our mahi across those platforms as well. This is your first 11 from the current squad. Max Crocombe, Tim Payne, Boxall, Bindon, De Vries, Bell, Stamanic, McCowart, Singh, Just, and Wood. So you've got, because I brought this up last time, and I was like, Ryan Thomas, is he that good, basically? And you're telling me he's the man, but he's not good enough for your first 11. I understand why, because he's probably just getting back into the all-white squad, so that's all good. No dramas there. How are you feeling about that team competing against Australia? Your preferred first 11, and some of the players, so we've got Ben Old might be an impact player, Costa Barbarouses might be an impact player, Logan Rogerson can come off the bench, Ryan Thomas I suspect is a near certainty to get game time off the bench. Surman, he could be a starting centre back. There's no real need for an impact player at centre back, but he's a really good backup there. To me, the best players coming off the bench are Barbarouses, Old, Rogerson, Ryan Thomas. So that's kind of the rotation me as my football coach manager extraordinaire would roll with. How are you feel explain some of the stuff to me, with context of they're coming up against Australia next week, and is that team good enough to beat Australia if things work well? Is there a glaring weakness, or where's Tommy Smith win a night? Just joking.
Yeah, I think the thing about having the depth to absorb a few absences, because there are also guys like Ben Wayne, Matt Garbutt, etc., who have stayed back with their clubs because they're not breaking for international windows. There's kind of, to be honest, a similar reason why Kakachi and Paulson aren't there. It's recent transfers, just embed yourself where you are, one thing at a time for them. The starting 11 doesn't really suffer because there are guys who are just as good, who can just sneak on in, take the spot, arguably better. I don't know if Matt Garbutt, I don't know if I'd actually have him in a first 11. Ben Wayne, I certainly wouldn't have in the first 11 because Chris would. But I think the bench does suffer when you do that, yeah. Right?
But the only dude from a casual standpoint, basically the only guy who I don't think has the name profile of some of the other players is Cullen McCowart. And you've got Cullen McCowart as a starting right-sided player, right winger, right midfielder. That's the only guy where I think this dude is below Elijah Just, Sapri Singh, Marco Stamanic, Ryan Thomas, Joe Bell, that tier of quality Kiwi footballers that we have. Everything else is for me, it all makes sense with the players available and stuff. Sure, I might want Finn Surman as a starting centre back, but I can't make a realistic case for him to be selected over Tyler Bindon or Michael Boxall. The only hole that I'm seeing is Cullen McCowart, but that is from a perspective where his name just doesn't have the same juice as Sapri Singh. But even for me, following Auckland FC closely, it's like the old, because this player plays for the Warriors, he's going to be better than anyone playing for an Australian team. if I only watch Auckland FC, then I'll be like, nah, Logan Rogerson's got to be in there. But you've got Cullen McCoward ahead of Logan Rogerson. And that's the only area that I'm curious about as far as building a first 11 that will beat Australia.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like Surman and Boxall and Bindon goes, like all three of them will get at least one star. You rotate those guys. You got three centre backs who are all worthy of it. You can only pick two in a starting 11 unless you slide Bindon out to right back, as happened in the previous game. But that's kind of an emergency situation. That's not really where he ought to be. But like, there's not really any difference between any three of them. Like, any combination of two from those is fine.
Wait, sorry, just because you mentioned that, if we're going back three with some wing back action, would it be Bindon who moves out? Like, because I don't really feel like Surman's going to be a wide centre back. I don't really feel like Boxall would be a wider centre back. Boxall and Bindon to me, Boxall and Surman to me feel like central defenders, whereas a Bindon, Tapine, De Vries type, they seem more like they can cover those wider defender positions.
Yes, but yes, but also no. Like, Boxall certainly, his team actually plays in a back three anyway at Minnesota United, and he's the middle guy. He's like the middle of the back three. Portland alternate. They go with two centre backs sometimes. They go with three centre backs other times. Sometimes they swap between the game. And Surman's just always the guy on the right side, whether that's right in the middle or it's right on the like edge of the three. So he would, and Bindon can play anywhere. So, but if you're playing with a back three, it would be to get those three in there. And I do think that's a possibility. Like, maybe even not from the start, but it might be a shake it up second half when you're 2-0 down and nothing to lose, kind of like alternate plan B type tactic from the All Whites. That is worth thinking about, because we do have three very good centre backs there who can do that, and also arguably, particularly if Kakache is not there, arguably a weakness in the fullback positions, which you could make up for, because if you're doing that to try get attacking, well, then you chuck like one of your wingers out there at right wing back, or something. Like, you put Logan Rogerson there, or something like that. Someone who can just get up and down and whip and crosses and be speedy, and you just cop the bit that, like, yeah, maybe he's going to miss a tackle or two there. Maybe they might be able to target him behind him, but you've got Finn Surman covering for him, being able to slide out. So I think you can deal with that. Yeah, so it looks something like that. Like, if you went a back three, it would be Surman on the right, Boxall in the middle, Bindon on the left. The McCowart point is interesting though, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wrote about this in the preview about it, because I don't know, I just get the vibes that a lot of people in the All Whites sort of fan base would pick Ben Old ahead of Callum McCowart. And Callum McCowart's had several years playing in the top division in Denmark, where he's now he's been a locked on starting player. He started every game except for one this season. The one he didn't was because he had played an extra time European qualifier in the midweek, and so they brought him off the bench in the weekend as a sort of rotational thing. He started every other game. He gets goals, he gets assists for them. He's brilliant for, like, at club level. He's arguably more accomplished than any of our other forwards. Like, he's done more at club level than Sarpreet Singh has, aside from the two Bayern Munich appearances. Eli Just maybe is starting to get up into that category, but it's only in the last 12 months that he's really gone extras. And he used to play in the same division that McCowart is in now, and his team got relegated, and he didn't do a whole lot when they were in the top flight. Certainly not what McCowart's gotten up to. But McCowart hasn't really done as much for the All Whites, and he didn't do that much also in the season that he played for the Wellington Phoenix. Like, I think that was a little bit of a quiet year for him there. Didn't provide the goals and assists that he might otherwise have done, and for that reason, I think it's basically what you were saying about, like, if you watch Auckland FC all the time, you're gonna have a bias towards those players, the guys that you've seen in person doing the business. I think a lot of people haven't seen Callum McCallum and just how consistently effective he's been at a very high club level. And at the same time, people have seen Ben Old playing really well for the Wellington Phoenix, but haven't seen him like in and out of the team for Saint-Etienne. And now they've been relegated and they're talking about sending him out on loan, which actually didn't happen. Deadline day came and went, and he appears to still be with Saint-Etienne, so that's nice for him, I suppose. It's nice for him if they play him. It's not nice for him if they were trying to loan him out because they don't think there's a spot for him and he's just going to be getting 10 minutes off the bench here or there. Like, Ben Old to me is still a project player who he does some things extremely well. He does other things. There's still weaknesses in his game. Like his defensive work, I would imagine someone who is as good at like low center of gravity and close control and dribbling, and so I like sort of the speed and work rate as well. I sort of look at that type of player and think he should be really good on the press. Like he should be running up and winning tackles and things like that. He's a terrible tackler statistically, and he like the end product, even at the Phoenix, was something that was still in and out. Like the crossing and the shooting, just the final touches weren't always there, not as clinical as they should be. He's got the tools, and I'm sure he'll get there, but it just feels like he got, probably because he played for the Wellington Phoenix in their best ever season, like he got pushed into a category that was maybe above what he's used to, whereas a lot of McCallum's best club work has come out of sight, out of mind, and people have maybe missed it. But part of that is also because like Eli Justice you might have, like people might have been saying the same thing about him 2 years ago, but they're not now, because he's on top of what he's done for multiple clubs in the last 12 months. On top of that, he's also scored a bunch of goals for the All Whites. Like he's also done it when everyone was watching, in New Zealand, in these Oceania qualifiers and stuff. He's been scoring great goals. So if the tide has turned for him, it's because of his performances. It's because of what he's done. And McCallum just needs to do that. Like he needs to score a few more goals. He has to have a few more, like, you know who played really well in that game today? Oh, Callum McCallum. Oh, he's great. He did a few more of those types of performances from him in the All Whites jersey to turn that perception around. Because I think he is better than Ben Old. But I don't know what Ben Old's really done for the All Whites specifically. But as I say, he has the Wellington Phoenix stuff to fall back on, where he was very good in his last season there. So, but they should, like, they're both going to get good opportunities against Australia. The window is there. The window is there to make your own reputation with what you're able to achieve in these games against Australia, where a lot of people are going to be watching, because you got the extra trans-Tasman rivalry aspect to it as well. Nice time zones for these games. Plus, they chuck them on TVNZ too, so people they're going to be a little bit more visible than anything. The one thing I find about when TVNZ have coverage is people talk about how nice it is to have free-to-air sports. It's like, yeah, but there's some FIFA Plus anyway. Like, I was watching it for free anyway. I'm going to watch it for free now. I was watching it for free before. I think the biggest difference when TVNZ gets sporting coverage, and we've seen this with cricket and we've seen this with football and basketball and all sorts like that, is they actually like talk about it on the news. They actually, like, the sports news segments will actually have a bit on the Tall Blacks, because I don't think they suddenly care so much about the Tall Blacks and the breaking up the rugby netball duopoly. I think it's just that it becomes advertising for their own channel. When you've got the coverage of it, it becomes advertising for your own channel to actually mention it on the news. So I think that kind of scope and focus and whatever still makes quite a bit of difference with the kind of wider population. So that is something the All Whites are going to benefit from, I guess, leading into the World Cup with a lot more eyeballs on them.
They described it as a game changer. So my initial reaction is automatically no. It's not going to be a game changer. I'll remind the listeners, anytime you see, where you read or hear game changer to describe something, which was literally exactly what happened for TVNZ getting these rights, it is usually not a game changer. So just keep that in mind. And I don't know, sports fans they find ways to watch it. I don't think it doesn't really matter, but who cares about that shit? You've already dabbled into tedious territory there. We need to touch on the New Zealand A cricket team in South Africa, and they've lost 2 games, 2 one-dayers. First thing I'd say is that they are playing in I think they're playing in the high veld. So altitude's a factor. That's why they've lost those games, because of the altitude. And also we got Benoni. This is where they're playing. Benoni, which is on the outskirts of Johannesburg. And I'm looking on the maps here. Heidelberg Mall is just a wee bit south of Benoni. So shout out to the Heidelbergs, the Heidenbergs, the Heisenbergs, and all the Hbergs around the world. There's actually this thing for the New Zealand A team where, because I've been big upping their first class record, right? So they're undefeated in 6 first class games and 6 unofficial test matches. They have, I think they have 4 wins and 2 draws. That is not the case in the one-day stuff. Like in Bangladesh, they lost their one-day series. I think they lost the one-day series in Australia as well. So if you're worried about New Zealand A results, and I'm like, I can't celebrate their first-class undefeatedness and then say, nah, the results don't matter. Right? Like, I can't have those two things, I can't put those 2 things out there same time. I think it's when you're called talking out the side of your mouth. But these are development exercises. So it is a case, like when I look at these 2 games, these 2 one-dayers, and we see that batters who have batted in 2 innings, none of the top 5 have scored over 40 runs. That isn't going to help you win cricket games, but I think it's going to be beneficial for the development of these players. Bevan Jacobs has got 7 runs in 2 innings. Mohamed Abbas has 25 runs in 2 innings. Nick Kelly has 31 runs in 2 innings. Mitch Hay has 33 runs in 2 innings. Sorry, it's just those 4 who are in the top order and have batted twice, because there has been a rotation. Reece Madiu played the first game. Curtis Heafy played the second game. And the story of these 2 games is that New Zealand's batting has sucked until Zak Foulkes gets to the crease. And Zak Foulkes has 250 so far. Simon Keane has also been pretty impressive batting down the order. Bowling's been a bit tricky coming up. So it's like the top order batters have struggled, and generally the whole bowling attack has struggled as well, coming up against a good South African team in their conditions. Matt Fisher did take 4 wickets in his 1 game. Ashok took 3 wickets in the first game. Jaden Lennox took 2 wickets in the second game. So the spinners have 5 wickets between them, and all the other bowlers combined have 5 wickets between them. Fisher's got 4 of them. So there's like Zak Foulkes, he's been good with the bat, 14 overs for 7.8 RPO. Ben Lister, 7 overs, 7 RPO. Mohamed Abbas, 4 overs, 7 RPO. Dale Phillips, a little bit of off spin for 3 overs, 8.3 RPO. Josh Clarkson, 2 overs, 8 RPO. Matt Fisher, 4 wickets at 8.7 RPO. Simon Keane took a wicket in the second game, but he's going for 7.3 RPO. So all the seamers are 7 RPO or higher. The 2 spinners, though, below 5-year RPO. So that's good stuff from them. But where the main, Fisher took 4 wickets, so he's had a pretty nice little run recently, taking 1, maybe 2 wickets on test debut, and then coming in with a 4-fer in South Africa. But the main dude so far is Zak Foulkes, even though he doesn't have a wicket and he's gone for 7.8 RPO. His batting has been really, really good. The thing about Zak Foulkes, like Simon Keane has kind of smashed it, which was on the radar when he was opening the batting for Auckland in the Super Smash last summer. Like he was smashing boundaries for Auckland with at the top of the order with Martin Guptill often. But Zak Foulkes has like serious craft to his batting. That is why he opened the batting for Canterbury in the Plunket Shield a few seasons ago. And he has a first-class strike rate of 46. But he's also got a T20 international strike rate early in his career of 144. So Zak Foulkes has, like, he is about as genuine all-roundery as they get. Let's not forget it, he took 5 wickets on test debut against Zimbabwe. And he's not a... He's always got a good T20 strike rate, but he's not a slugger. He's quite, like, he's got little dinks. He can play his strokes, but the best version of Zak Foulkes as a batter, he likes to build into his innings. He likes to take his time, and he's got a strike rate of 71 so far as the leading run scorer for New Zealand A. Whereas, so Zak Foulkes has 126 runs at a strike rate of 71. Simon Keane has 114 runs at a strike rate of 128. So they work well together, trying to rebuild the innings because the top order's stumbled. Then Zak Foulkes is just grinding down, working through his innings. Simon Keane's smashing boundaries. That works well together. But Zak Foulkes is a pretty serious batter. I think he's like, I'm curious about his T20 stuff coming up. I think he's a really good T20 bowler, and I think he has potential. As I said, he's got a good T20 international strike rates, only in 7 innings of 144. He can hit those boundaries, but he has genuine first-class batting craft that is very exciting, very interesting, because then you're getting into scenarios where can you have Glenn Phillips, Mitchell Santner, Zak Foulkes, and Nathan Smith in the same test team? How about that?
So we've got Simon Keane, best known as a bowler, but can smash the ball with the bat and has opened in Super Smash.
That's a tricky one, though, because he started his domestic career on fire as a bowler, but then his bowling hit a plateau, and he started to score runs. So it's for Simon Keane, in a couple of years as a domestic cricketer, half of it was as a really good bowler, and then the second half has been as a really good batter. So just a bit of clarification.
True. Important clarification. And Zak Foulkes, meanwhile, also better known as a bowler, and it's, you know, with the bowling that he kind of got into the test team and into the Black Caps in general. But he's also opened the batting before in Plunket Shield. And you're saying he's more of a craftsman with the bat. He takes his time and builds into an innings. Keane likes to hit the boundaries a bit more, being a little more aggressive, or at least certainly in that role he has done. Both of them have scored some runs on this tour, especially Foulkes, and there's that contrast of, like, Foulkes has, despite his batting still being an underrated thing, probably in a Callum McCall way, where it's like people just haven't really seen him score these runs before, even though he's always been capable of it. He's like, yeah, he was the emergency opener for Canterbury a year or two ago when they needed someone to start the Plunket Shield off, and Keane has done that as a kind of like pinch hitter opener in the Super Smash. So this is kind of, it might feel like a sudden development or something from either of those, but judging by their domestic careers to this point, this has actually kind of already been forecasted. These are the players who they are, who they're capable of, and we just happen to be seeing it at this level.
Simon Keane averages 27 in first-class batting, 33 in one-day batting, 23 in T20 batting. But here's the difference, career strike rates. First-class strike rate 56, one-day strike rate 97, T20 strike rate 171. Zak Foulkes, 46, 73, 126. So all those strike rates are notably lower by at least 10 runs or 10 balls, whatever it is, for Zak Foulkes. And that is the difference. I think Zak Foulkes is a better cricketer, but because to be honest, I think Jock McKenzie is a better all-rounder for Auckland than Simon Keane. But Simon Keane keeps doing stuff, he keeps scoring runs. He keeps taking enough wickets, and he keeps adding himself to a very talented group of all-rounders that are existing in Aotearoa cricket. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens next. Maybe some top-order batters score some runs. Maybe some of the seamers find ways to be effective, and then New Zealand A continues their undefeated streak in unofficial test match cricket. It is our podcast. Stay tuned. Plenty more stuff. Aotearoa sporting coverage coming at you across the interwebs. Otherwise, big up yourself. Love yourself. Kia kaha. Stay beautiful. Church.